My name is David Thomas Smith. I retired out as a Navy career counselor, Master Chief, submarine qualified. Well, first of all, I told you about the diesel boats, how kind of like dirty they were and had leaks all over the place, whereas the Polaris missile subs, which were nuclear subs, they were the exact opposite. They were very clean. For one thing, the power plant was a nuclear power plant. It was self-contained. It was clean and safe. Then we had the missile compartment, and we had 16 Polaris missiles there. And the missile tube sections, they were kept clean. My working space missile control center, where we operated the firing console and so forth that launched the bird and kept the computers, it was clean. The ship was just clean overall. As a matter of fact, it was so clean that, well, first of all, we made our own air, we made our own water, and we carried food. The weakest link in the whole chain generally was the crew. A Polaris missile or a nuclear sub at that time could stay out probably, they figured, a maximum of maybe 200 days. But a crew would have problems at that time. But as far as your support systems, no problem, because you made your own water, you made your own air, and the other thing would be food. But you could always go to emergency rations if you had to. But as I think about that, you know, that was good. There wasn't anything bad that I could say about that. Again, that was the one instance where I ran across a guy that told me that he wasn't going to work for me and all that. But other than that, as I moved up the chain, it was pretty good. And like I say, the Polaris submarines, they're just a total different breed than the diesel boats. Totally different. Totally different. Oh, the first one, I believe, for John Adams. I believe that was the first one, was John Adams. And I ended up serving actually on both crews because they got a blue crew and a gold crew. In the interim, after I did one tour, then they needed somewhat of my specialty fire controlman on the other crew. So they asked me would I be willing to do a back-to-back, and I said yes. So I ended up serving on both the gold and the blue crew. So, and that was out of Charleston. We did that we went out of Charleston. We went out of Charleston, and sometimes later on we moved and we went to Holy Lock, and we would fly from crew flights from Charleston Air Force Base over to Scotland. So that was kind of like the cycle there. The longest I've stayed down, I believe, was 75 days. The longest I was down. Now you got to remember now, although we're inside a special Polaris submarine, we don't surface. The only contact with the outside world we have is what they call a floating antenna, and that was just to strictly listen for any emergency actions that came from the Joint Chiefs or the President giving us the order to fire. Back then we would come up once a day, stick the scope up, get a fix, and reset our navigational system, and that was it. That was it. You know, we maintained no contact with the outside world. If sonar picked up anything, you turned and went the opposite direction, because the jobs of the Polarises was to stay hidden, remain undetected. That's how we maintained that edge in the Cold War. As a matter of fact, my Space Missile Control Center was where the computers were and the firing console, and the temperature was constantly 67 degrees down there, I believe. So when we stood watch down there, we always had to wear a jacket, because the spaces were air conditioned for the comfort of the equipment. Back then we had computers that were door mounted. They were literally mounted on doors, swinging doors, you know, and they generated a lot of heat. Whereas today you got more computing power generally in the average laptop than we had available to us. But because of the heat that they generated, you know, we had to have constant air conditioning. And like I say, it was kept clean. As a matter of fact, Missile Control Center was also referred to as Music Control Center, because back then what we did, we carried reel-to-reel music and on 8-inch tapes, and we had a couple of tape players down there, and we would play music throughout the ship, kind of like modified Muzak, if you will, type thing. So, you know, that was that.